good Monday evening to you. How the heck is everyone? It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen by you. And I hope you're having an absolutely stellar evening, and you've had a great day, and that you had a wonderful weekend. I am your host, Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver. That's me, the one, the only. And of course, tonight's live stream is brought to you by our friends at Hellebarde Games. Hellebarde Games makes the kind of adventure modules that they like to play, whether it's for Castles and Crusades, 5th edition D&D, or old school gaming in general. Old school is in play at the table, and you can find them on DriveThruRPG or at their website, hellebardegames.com. That's Hellebarde Games, and we do enjoy their stuff around here. So, how are we? Is everyone good? Ellen Rizkala, good to see you. Luther Pendragon, Robert Phillips, Connect, Vincent, not a Bartolo. I know it's Nota Bartolo, but that's a thing that we've had. Vincent is really, I mean, like, he's one of those guys that if this were a TV show, you know, an usher in a suit with the pinstripes down the sleeves and a little pillbox hat would take him down to his seat, little brass nameplate on it there with Mr. Nota Bartolo. And if he's not in the stream audience, nobody else is there. But anyway, hello, Drone Swarm. Good to see you. But you know what? You're all special. Yes, indeed you are. Yes, indeed you are. I'm just pointing out that Vincent has been here for quite a while in the audience. Tonka Todd, good to see you. And anybody else in the chat who I miss, he's bad, he's beautiful, he's crazy, he's Tonka. You envy my collection. Daramo Nanimo, did I get that right? I saw your comment on a couple of YouTube things, and I am glad you are. I am glad that you are taking the sword and torch of first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons to learn its workings. Anything that we here in the community, the folks, be it me, the folks in the chat, any of the comments, any of that, anything that we can do to help you shoulder up those first edition AD&D rules, and we'll do that. Damien, greetings. Good to see you. Someone got very upset at me in the comments and said that all the people who had been here at the beginning had left. All the old timers had left. But, you know, what can I say? I don't think that's true. Lux Armok is now in this world. That's Bill, strong in his mountain. So yeah, I have a few odds and ends behind me. Sometimes I even have a minute or two to actually play. We did some classic Space Hulk. Was it last week? No, it was a week before. We did some classic Space Hulk. But yeah, we actually game with those things. And the thing about it is nothing up here is exceedingly rare in the general sense. I have Dungeon Master's Guide, I have Player's Handbook, I have Monster Manual, Fiend Folio, Deities and Demigods, and I'm just talking about the D&D stuff, the AD&D stuff. But most of that you can get on print on demand, and some of it you can get if you know where to look. Any Ralpartha figs? Many, and I don't prefer 2E Greyhawk. I prefer Gary's Greyhawk. That was the best, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I have scattered in and amongst, particularly in the finished ones, because someone gave me their massive collection of painted minis, and there are Ralparthas in there. Stuffing your face with lasagna, Road March. Oh, I wish I had the Ralpartha Death Dealer, that great Frazetta piece. That is awesome. There was something. Oh, so something I want to mention, and I'm going to beat on this drum until that time. The total subscriber count on the channel is sitting at 4,255. Not a bad number. It's been a little kind of down and then up and then sort of flat. We haven't seen those amazing spikes because Wizards of the Coast has learned to not make martyrs of their enemies anymore. Or at least they have for the moment, but that's neither here nor there. I love a nice round 5,000. That's not that many more subscribers. So here's what I'm going to do for you guys. If you're just passing by, if you're just watching, if you're just cruising past and you're like, I'll listen to this, I'm not going to subscribe. This guy's hair is too long. His beard's too scraggly. His Dungeons and Dragons is too old. I tell you, I'm going to make you a deal. Here's what we're going to do. If by the time of the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention 2, which is in June, the Guac 2, this channel hits, or if it hits it before, we'll still announce it at the Guac 2. If this channel hits 5,000 subs by then, I will give away a set of premium color copies of the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Player's Handbook, and the Monster Manual as a complete set. I will gift that to a winner. We will do a raffle site, and you can enter to win those. And if I can figure out a way to get a pod copy of original Dungeons and Dragons, whether it's bound as a single volume or 3 separate books, I'll do that too. Not to the same person. There'll be 2 drawings. So you win either OD&D or AD&D. But we'll spin that wheel, we'll roll that dice, and unlike artisanal computers, I won't say, oh no, re-roll. Nope, the winner gets it. So 5,000 subscriber, my gift to you guys, if we hit 5,000 subs on this channel by the time of the Guac, and I will announce the date, it's going to be mid-June. That's what I will do. So get that word out there. Get the word out there. Tell people to stop by and subscribe. Because you know what? It is almost exactly 1 year to the day. It was March 11th, 2022, when this channel tipped over 1,000 subs. March 11, 2022. I had to go out. I had to go to the grocery store or something, and I came home and I saw that it had tipped over, and I was over the moon. That was quite a big event for me. So you guys want to crack at that? You guys want to crack at a set of crispy new first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons book? Or crispy new original D&D books? Pound the pavement. Tell him Bill Sylvie sent you. And he's got some great video content. Speaking of great video content, guess what we're doing tomorrow night, boys and girls? Tomorrow night, we are going to play first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That's right. We do that. If you're new to the show, if you're a new subscriber, if you're just stopping by for the first time, we play first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And this may come as a little bit of interest to our friend Derimo. I'll stop and answer your questions. I'll explain what we're doing. It's not just going to be we just roll and, just hope you guys are following along. No. Sometimes we'll hit little points and I'll want to stop and explain. Sometimes people from the chat ask a question and I'll stop and explain. Never be afraid. This is not some passive thing. Imagine a football game where you could say, hey, ref, I don't understand why that penalty is the way it is. And the referee said, well, I'll tell you. That's the kind of way it's entertaining, educational, and informative, because that's how I roll. And speaking of rolling, I'm going to roll my seat back a little bit on Wednesday night, because the Wonder from Down Under, there to throw another bunch of dinks on the Barbie. Wednesday night, Kyle Schumont returns, and so does Classic Traveler. And I think we're supposed to wrap up Classic Traveler on Wednesday night, but that's up to him because he's the GM. Yours truly, I'm going to sit back and roll dice. That's what I'm going to do. Unicycle Peon, good to see ya. And then on Thursday night, guess what, boys and girls? We will have a guest. That's right. We're going to have a guest on Thursday night from Gripner Games, talking about their let me see. They're going to be talking about their game world. You just pull that information up. And we are going to be talking to Steven from Gripner Games. He's going to be here live. Collecting Chaos, good to see you. You knew you should. No. You need that energy for this show. For the energy level I'm bringing you guys. You need that energy. All right? Get your protein. But anyhow, that's all happening this week. And then we cap the week off on Friday. With, guess what? Gamma World First Edition. That's right. A little bit of preamble ramble, and then we're back to the wastelands of Gamma World. So all you guys in the chat can kick back and enjoy. And speaking of enjoying, we have some cool stuff tonight we're going to talk about. We've done these deep dives. We've done these let's reads. And now I didn't know if you guys would be like, oh, no, just filler. I'm not sticking around for this. But you guys seem to really like the deep dive stuff. You do. So we're going to do this. Okay. I apologize in advance if this doesn't work, but I'm going to try. I'm going to go to Studio View 2, and I'm going to see if this will let me put this up here, if I'm going to have to do the split screen nonsense with StreamYard. Gamma World is so hopeless. Well, it can be. I tend to think my Gamma World games trend away from, Threads and The Day After and even Mad Max, and more towards like the bed sitting room, But anyway, let me see if this will work. Hey, there it is. Okay, so what we have here, this is a PDF. You can find these out on the web. Look, they're unobtainium. All right. Wizards of the Coast lets them exist out there. If they wanted to shut them down, they would. So I can only presume that it's okay. Hey, GM Van, good to see you. Traveler characters need to finish by crashing on Gamma World. Sorry about that. All right, so what we have here is issue 2 of the Dragon. Now, we've done a deep dive on issue 1, but what's it like for issue 2 onward? Well, I will tell you, first of all, at this point in TSR's history, now, a lot of people think that D&D came out right after Chainmail, and that's when TSR came into existence. TSR was a diverse company. Okay, they had a lot of different war games out. You know, we're coming up on the release of Metamorphosis Alpha next year. They've released and then had to withdraw Warriors of Mars. They've got Star Probe, War of Wizards, Tecumel, Empire of the Petal Throne, original Dungeons and Dragons, Tractics, so many different war games, and a couple of role-playing games. So TSR, I mean, they're not, you know, they're not vertical. They're vertical and horizontal. So the Dragon is utterly unique at this point. All right, it's not a zine. It's not, you know, a pamphlet. This is a full-fledged glossy covered magazine. Cover art. Look at this. I believe this is Phil Foglio's art, if I am not mistaken. Nope, I am mistaken. I don't think that's Phil Foglio's colophon down there. Oops, I keep forgetting. I can't do that. I can't move my my studio controls over there, or else you guys will see them. Then you'll know all my secrets. Hey, Dungeon Minister, good to see you. So, what's the year? Important question. Well, this is 1976. This is 1976. So OD&D is still tall in the saddle. So let's look at our contents. We have Dragon Rumbles, monkish combat in the area of promotion. Now, this I think is even usable for the modern DM today. Maybe. We'll see. I've taken a look at it. Maybe. The Gnome Cache, Chapter 2. Not going to read the Gnome Cache. I mean, I've read the Gnome Cache, but I'm not. We're not going to do a line for line read through of it. Mapping the Dungeons, Gen Con update, hints for D&D judges, Part 3, The Dungeons, Shadow of a Demon, The Feathered Serpent, Creature Feature. I think you guys are going to like the Creature Feature. Press release, Venerable Destruction, and Star Command. A new D&D class, The Alchemist. Dirt. And D&D option, Weapon Damage. Now, the optional weapon damage, this is so long ago that Supplement 1 Greyhawk isn't out yet. The optional weapon damage isn't published yet. Greetings, Matt. Welcome, welcome. So without further ado, let us continue our deep dive here. Okay, so first of all, we have this ad for Gen Con IX, Gen Con 9, where hosts are preparing for 3 full days of gaming, August 20, I'm sorry, it is 76, 20th, 21st, and 22nd, with special guest Fritz Leiber. That's right, the one, the only Fritz Leiber is there. And that is a Greg Bell illustration off to the left, a very striking Vikings. I don't know that they're Vikings. More miniatures, more board games, more fantasy, movies. Now that fascinates me. I mean, it all fascinates me, but what movies were they showing? Were you at an early Gen Con? What kind of movies did they show? Seminars, dealers, auctions at Horticultural Hall, Lake Geneva. For information Gen Con X 330 Center Street, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, 53147. And then there's a phone number. I don't know if that phone number is still connected. I don't think it's going to get you any info. And watch for news of the super event planned for the nation's oldest wargaming convention when it celebrates its 10th birthday. Remember when I said they didn't just spring forth fully formed with Dungeons and Dragons? This has been going on for 10 years. D&D's been around for 2 years. So Gary's been swinging away at Gen Con now for a decade. And Dragon Rumbles. That looks like a David C. Sutherland piece up there. Now, I am going to read a few pieces here and again. Some of them we're going to scroll through unless you guys are yelling at me to stop. And I'm trying to keep up with the chat and talk to you guys. Apocalypse Dan, I hope they were watching the original Wicker Man and lots of Led Zeppelin videos. Well, I think back then in 76, because Song Remains the Same didn't hit till what, 77? So it would have been bootleg concert films. But I would hope so too. $1.50. Yep, those were the days. I'm just trying to keep up with y'all's comments there. I'm kind of spread out. 1976, that was 2 years before you were born. My real name is Angie, if that's easy. Sure thing. If you're okay with me referring to you by your first name, that's fine with me, Angie. All right. Welcome to the pages of the fastest growing magazine in the hobby. Welcome back to those of you who were here at last issue. I trust you liked what you saw last time. I base this assumption on the fact of the response we've had. The majority of the comments have been very favorable. The only problem that we have had is that we've had very little response directed solely at the editor. While it's very nice to glean all the fine things that have been said from the orders, letters to TSR, etc., it would be nice to address those comments directly to the magazine. This brings us to the topic of this editorial, reader response. The increase in interest in fantasy gaming, gives it a capital F, fantasy gaming, in the past year has been nothing short of phenomenal. In fact, that sums up the attitude taken by much of the established gaming hobby when fantasy first started making inroads. It's a phenomenon, won't last long. The evidence today suggests otherwise. There are many good fantasy games on the market today. Even the big two of gaming, Avalon Hill and SPI, have come around to the view that fantasy gaming is here to stay. This change in attitude is evidenced by the fact that both of them have produced fantasy games. It is important to remember that fantasy gaming differs from fantasy literature. Fantasy gaming encompasses fantasy, swords and sorcery, and science fiction. One can hardly pick up a gaming zine nowadays and not see something dealing with fantasy. The single largest tournament at Origins 2 was D&D with a whopping 240 entrants. Gen Con, which always has a good emphasis on fantasy in the past few years, continues to get larger. The increase in titles of fantasy games, as well as the proliferation of companies and or people producing the games, indicate that the market is also expanding. To continue to please this ever-increasing number of gamers, I need the help of you, the reader. What do you want to see in these pages? All of us in this business would like to think that we have our finger squarely on the pulse of the public. Unfortunately, this just isn't so. I am not gifted with mass telepathy or precognition. Alas, that it were so. What do you want to see in the future? What did you like from number 1 and number 2? What did you dislike? For the cost of a stamp or postcard, you can influence the future course of this magazine. What do you want? Battle reports, fiction, reviews, variants, analyses, more art? Address your comments, letters, etc. to me, the editor, or to Out on a Limb, the letters column. The most interesting letters, or the best written ones, or those that make the best points, will be published in a cross-section in Out on a Limb. Nobody loves criticisms, but they are necessary, and I welcome them along with praise/good comments and the like. While I don't deny that economics play a part, I most of all want you, the readers, to be happy. It is my sincere desire to please as many gamers as I can with the contents of this magazine. Dust off those quills and let me know. Timothy G. Cask, editor. August 1976, Volume 1, Number 2. And there's the little stuff that the post office has to know. We come to John M. Seaton's Monkish Combat in the Arena of Promotion. Now, I was just kidding about this. This is kind of unusable. We're just going to kind of skim over this. Let's just look at a few points here, for example. To enter the arena for combat, multiply strength and constitution, then add 10 times your level to get damage points taken. This is the number of damage points you can take. Next, add strength, dexterity, and have intelligence to get damage points given. This is the amount of damage points you inflict with a normal blow. When you have DPT and DPG, then you are ready to approach the mat for combat. Combat itself takes place in the ceremonial arena under the supervision of the next highest master. The contestants approach the sands from the opposite sides of the arena and bow twice, once to past masters and once to their sensei or teacher. They then advance to the center and stand about 4 feet away from each other. They bow to their opponents, assume their combat stance on signal, and attack. And it just kind of goes on like this. They write 6 units of combat, so it's kind of a hidden move sort of thing. And it just goes back and forth accordingly. And what you write down, the various moves are cross-compared on a chart to determine whether they do any damage. It's not terrible, but it ain't great. Yes, Mar, greetings. Just kind of scrolling back up, making sure I don't miss anyone. Don't forget Awful Green Things from Outer Space. Of course, never to forget a Tom Wham game. When did Threads, the original, come out in Britain? 82 or 83, I think, Apocalypse. I'm not sure. Enter the Dragon, both early 70s movies and the monk fighting article. So yeah, basically you'll write down 6 moves each, whether you're blocking, hitting, and you just keep doing that until one of you drops. I mean, it's not the worst system in the world, but at the same time, wow. Wow. But let us continue. And there's little illustrations that show you the blocks, the strikes, and so on, which I think is actually kind of unnecessary. And so we continue on the Gnome Cache. This is by Gary. Summary: unable to resist the wanderlust any longer, Dunstan has robbed his father's strongbox and set forth on his quest of adventure and glory. Chapter 2, Balls. The balls of his feet ached, and his legs were numb, and Dunstan was generally fatigued all over. Gotta love a chapter unafraid to just jump right in with balls. I've got balls of ache. But if you want to track these down on the web, the Gnome Cache is heartbreaking, not because it's particularly sad, it's not. I'm just going to warn you, Gary never finished it. We never got a conclusion to the Gnome Cache. And I forgot to ask him. how it was supposed to end. I don't think he would have told me anyway. Yeah, no, Threads is a fairly contemporary thing. You see, it wasn't until the U.S. started to get parity with Soviet weapons in their NATO stance as far as nuclear, that suddenly the CND got very, very much more protesty, and you started seeing a harder push against, oh no, we must unilaterally disarm. I wonder where that came from. I wonder how that came to be. Oh, well, we can ponder it later. Hey, 31 folks in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Anyway, balls. I've got balls of ache. So, yeah, the Gnome Cache is basically the story of a young man who starts off on the wrong foot by stealing his father's sword, like a whole bunch of platinum out of his father's strongbox, and goes out to become an adventurer. I note this name right here, Master Theobald. Theobald shows up. Now, I'll have to reread, because it's been a minute or two since I read the Gnome Cache. I don't know if that's the same Theobald who wound up running the Beggars Guild and then got his head imploded by a thrown treasure chest by Gord in Saga of Old City. I'll have to read that and report. So let's see. The Gnome Cache. Search for the Forbidden Chamber by Jake Jacquet. And this is just kind of a bat rep here. Synopsis: a small band of adventurers, Ralph Hedlon Namius, Ralph the wizard, Dimwit the dwarf, and Lumbo the elf have become lost in the depths of an unexplored dungeon, finding their way past several obstacles, including the dreaded Recyclesaurus. The trio happened upon a small onyx box containing a curiously shaped gold key. Ralph related a tale to the other two members of the party, suggesting that the key might be to the first door of the great vault of the ancient King Glub VIII. According to the ancient lays, the vault contains the great golden dingus of power of the long-forgotten race known as the Hootspas. Just as Ralph contemplates his tale, Lumbo removes a key from its resting place. Lumbo's touch springs a trap, and several wall panels slide open, disgorging a horde of half-blitzed winos. You can see this is all very tongue-in-cheek. Yes, the Beggars Guild was in the city of Greyhawk. So there's a bit of a story, a bit of illustration there. Mapping the dungeons. Who out there? Now, I will ask you guys, don't go nattering these people. I don't think they're really up to it much anymore, but I could be wrong. Mapping the dungeons. Mapping the dungeons is basically the Craigslist ad of D&D players at the time, or the D&D meetup. Always read your post one last time for hitting that send button. Absolutely. So here's who was mapping the dungeon. You had a Keith Abbott in Muskegon, Alternative Recreational Realities Group. Alternative Recreational Realities Group. Maybe they just took a page from D&D and said, well, there's magic users, so Alternative Recreational Realities Group. Willie Davis. R. Dudley wants to play some EPT and Dungeons and Dragons. Charles Hickok. Tom Maurer. Russ Meek. St. Louis, Missouri represent. Somebody should have plugged all those guys into each other. OFHM, several DMs. That's over in Illinois. All the way down in Austin, Texas, you had Brian E. Pratt. Scott Rosenberg in Jamaica, New York. Jason Saylor, Steve Scarlett, Kara Tabletop Tactics Box 172, Waukegan. Spring Arbor College Dungeoning Society, care of Paul Jacquet's Spring Arbor MI. Charles Tierney, Triton Wargaming Society of UCSD. Ed Whitechurch, care of La Maison du Guerre. And Dave Witterell of Almont, St. Louis. And of course, we have the Dungeon Hobby Shop, the Midwest's newest and most complete wargame shop, Fantasy Crossroads of the world, 723 William Street, Lake Geneva, Y, 53147. Now we have some announcements over here too. Gen Con update. Let us read on what's happening in Gen Con. The Dungeons & Dragons tournament plan for Gen Con 9 is different in some respects from past tourneys played in scope and selection of winners. The size of each group will be limited to 5 players, 1 each fighter, mage, cleric, elf, mage, and dwarf fighter. These characters will have pre-rolled abilities and come equipped with certain magical goodies. The magi and cleric will be able to select their own spells. However, and all players will be able to select their own equipment. We will be prepared to handle 100 entrants being broken down into 20 groups of 5 players. Each group will have the same pre-rolled characters. Therefore, each character will be run by 20 different entrants. Interesting. Every endeavor has been made that each group will adventure through the same course, face similar monsters, traps, etc. These 20 groups will comprise the preliminary round. After they are all finished, the top 5 players in each class will advance to the final round. Thus, we will have 5 groups of 5 players each. Again, each group will be composed of 1 of each of the 5 classes. Those who make the final round will play the same class they did in the preliminaries, but a different character, again with pre-rolled abilities. As before, the Magi and Cleric will select their own spells, and all players will equip themselves. At the end of the final round, 5 winners will be selected, 1 in each class. Each will receive a $10 certificate from TSR Hobbies. And hey, that's good for an OD&D set. That's not bad. That's not bad. Grandpa Ty, good to see you. Rules used will include material from D&D volumes 1 through 3 and Greyhawk. I misspoke. Greyhawk was published by now. Due to their relative newness, material from Blackmore and Eldritch Wizardry will not be used. Fair enough, I guess. I hope Gen Con 10, they allow that. Scoring will be handled differently from past tourneys. If it is not already obvious, players will be competing only against others in their class, not the entire field. It is therefore impossible, for example, to select the top 5 clerics in the preliminary round by the normal subjective means used in D&D campaigns, as the same DM could not possibly fairly judge all entrants playing a cleric. Thus, a point system had to be devised to enable us to compare the performance of all entrants by class. Points will be awarded for monster kills, treasure accumulated, solving traps, penetration from a starting point to a goal. Playtesting has shown that this system works very well and gives an excellent picture of the performance of each entrance. Now, let's note something here. I think there is a conception that all classic Dungeons & Dragons involved dozens, plural, of players at a table. Here, it's a party of 5. And only 5. The preliminary round will be broken down into 2 sections, one on Saturday morning, the other on Saturday afternoon. Results will be posted as soon as possible after the second preliminary section, as well as who will be advancing to the final round, which will be held Sunday morning. If the gods smile upon this venture, and we get a few favorable die rolls, this tournament should prove to be an enjoyable experience for all concerned. DMs will be drawn from the Valparaiso University D&D Society, a loose organization of D2 freaks. D2? Maybe that was just shorthand for D&D. We're looking forward to meeting you at Lake Geneva in August and hope to show all tourney entrants a rousing good time. The following is a shortened version of the scenario that will be used in the preliminary round. The group of adventurers in question has offended the resident wizard of an old town in which they reside, having referred to him as a shriveled old nit. Maybe I've still got that previous statement of balls stuck in my head. Anyway, he is about to end their miserable existences with a well-placed fireball, but stops short of uttering the final words of the incantation. Eyeing them speculatively, we're going to hop over to page 26, and then we'll come back to page 10. He offers them a chance to redeem themselves. He tells them a tale of a highly magical staff that once belonged to him, but was stolen a few ages ago. He now believes it is in the dungeons of a nearby ruin and says if they find it and bring it back to him, he may just see them in a different light, so to speak. The party is ecstatic, relatively, at the opportunity to save their skins and readily agree to the adventure, thinking they will be able to line their own pockets as well as retrieve the old fool's bit of magical kindling. As they neglect to ask him why he doesn't go with them or why he hasn't recovered this bit of magic for now, he does not volunteer the information. Before sending them off, he takes the mage aside and tells them they should begin their search on the 6th stairway, at the same time conveniently slipping a curiously carved piece of amber into the mage's hand. So there's your scenario, boys and girls. There is your scenario. What do you think, huh? Rare and wonderful. And then we have an ad for the Kriegspielers. Looks like we have some Continentals, artillerists, some English soldiers and whatnot, and microscenics, assorted trees made out of lead. But we have assorted hedges and hedgerows, stone and wooden bridges, revetments for hull down, emplacements for artillery, stone walls, and fences. One-stop shopping center for wargaming, Custom Cast Incorporated over in Centerville, Ohio. Centerville, oh. I'm going to have to do something here. Hang on a second, guys. Let me see if I can do this. We're going to have to switch things up a little bit because I can barely see the chat and I feel like I'm missing y'all's comments. So we are going to do the we're going to do the present page, and I'm going to put the I'm going to put the PDF up like that. My apologies for the delay. It's just dang hard to see you guys in the chat. Anyone who says they remember lead miniatures didn't play with them as a kid. Oh, Brodo. Well, I will continue to do deep delves. I will continue to do deep delves because there are many issues of Dragon Magazine that I quite love. So let us present. Share screen. Share screen. There we go. I'm a little shrunk down now, but there we have more wargaming from Custom Cast. I use Mag Eyes myself, Dave, to be able to paint now. And from Joe Fisher, you know Joe from around the web, Hints for Judges, Part 3, Dungeons. For once, it is the author, not the judges, having trouble getting started. For when it comes to ideas for improving the dungeons, the possibilities are endless. So, in order, I will try to deal with the following areas. Now, I'm going to tell you something. These old articles, a lot of them, particularly something like this, they're still relevant today. There's still a lot of stuff you can learn from this today, guys. So in order, I will try to deal with the following areas: entrances, traps, treasures, mapping, and monsters. Again, I hope this article will help your judging improve. Good castles are always in demand. When judges of D&D, new and old alike, think of an entrance to the dungeons, the greater percentage think of an old ruined castle somewhere outside their town. And many of this same group have the mistaken impression that there is only one entrance to every dungeon. Both of these ideas are wrong. True, the famous game of Gary Gygax and Rob Kuntz is built around and under Greyhawk Castle, but this is far from being the only entrance. Beside the castle, I have discovered an entrance through an old dry cistern, and another entrance that is under a pool of quicksand, and even an entrance in a simple hole in the ground. In other games, I have discovered the dungeons were under the town or under the guards' barracks, and even one under the peasants' hovels. So as far as entrances go, it makes no difference where you put it or how you disguise it, as long as the dungeons are good. But the entrances can make the castle even more interesting. Is it in? There's a campaign set, the third-party campaign setting, where the dungeon entrance is literally in a tavern. Like, you go in and there's this huge covered pit, and you can actually go down and go adventuring in it. And he continues on. He talks about traps here. Traps don't always have to be harmful. Sometimes it's possible for a trap to also be a treasure, depending on the die roll. A good example of this is a party upon entering a room in the dungeons, discovers a pile of bones in one corner. Discovering nothing else of interest, the leader decides to take the time to reconstruct the skeleton. Once put together, the skeleton can do one of four things: attack, serve the party until destroyed, lead to the nearest unguarded treasure, or lead to his master, who happens to be a high-level magic user. Or the skeleton can do nothing except take up a lot of time, in which the judge can roll dice for more wandering monsters. John Stewart Keller, greetings. Drone Swarm Castle Greyhawk was literally, like, it predates Dungeons and Dragons almost. Greetings, Gangrel 44, excuse me. The Yawning Portal, thank you, Broda, that was it. One of the most popular types of traps is where the treasure or the chest it is in as the trap. Various traps can be placed in the treasure, so when touched or removed from the chest, the party can be transported with or without the treasure, or take many dice of damage, the number of dice depending on the amount of gold pieces or the rarity of the magic, or have the item explode. Or the magic that is in the treasure can be intelligent, so that it keeps trying to get back to its real owner. And when it comes to treasure chests, the author uses the following table. So you got a 50% chance it's a normal chest. 51 to 100, use the following table. 1 to 4, spring-loaded daggers fire when the chest is open, same as above, but the daggers are poison. Poison gas released when the treasure is open. When the chest is open, it acts as a mirror of life trapping. We have a little art up here, if I can get the scroll wheel. That's at Goblin. Which, is that? Jacques is there. Exploding chest. If the chest explodes, if open, the chest explodes, doing 2 to 7 dice. Not 2 to 7 points, 2 to 7 dice. So roll a d6 first. That's a 4 plus 1, 5 dice. And in this case, 5 dice are d6s. 3, 4, 5. And let's see what our exploding chest just did. Well, that one fell on the floor. We'll use this one. So we've got 10, 20 points of damage. A dangerous exploding chest. 91 to 95. All members within 5 feet lose 1 level of experience. Ouch. 86 through 90, I skipped that one. When chest is open, an enraged specter comes out. 96 through 98, all members within 5 feet lose 1 magic item. 99 to 100, intelligent chest. Act as if chest is 2nd through 9th level magic user, including spells. Other traps can be intelligent gold pieces. They have the nasty habit of screaming when taken from the room they were found in, which draws all sorts of monsters, or throwing themselves en masse at whoever makes the mistake of opening the chest they're in. The damage caused by the gold can vary, or even more discouraging is finding out that after fighting a red dragon and losing half the party, that they have won 60,000 chocolate-centered gold pieces, a real value being about a copper piece each. So this is kind of a proto, or at least this section of this is sort of a proto Grimtooth's traps section. I see what you wrote there, Luther, and the answer is no. No. I want your life energy, Luther. I'm sending the vampires and the wights and the specters and the succubi after you. You open the chest to forget what you were looking for, and also 3rd grade math. Greetings, King on the Mountain. So we have a lot of interesting odds and ends. The 90s were when Lorraine Williams was trying to get rid of all things Gygax, so it had them destroy Greyhawk. Yes, that is the truth. Road March says energy level drain is OP, which of course we know means obviously proper. Energy and level drain is obviously proper, and I agree with you, Road March. Thank you for taking my side on that. So here's some interesting magical items. Hobbit's pipe, seemingly ordinary clay pipe, is really a wondrous magical item. When common pipe weed is smoked, the pipe will give the user the ability to blow multicolored smoke rings at the rate of 1 to 4 per turn, and these smoke rings will go wherever ordered by their creator, moving at 4 inches per turn, though high winds will disperse them and lasting 1 to 6 turns. At first, this seems like a worthless ability. Consider an evil high priest attacks a party of 3, one of which owns a pipe. He lights it and sends smoke around the EHP's head, blinding and confusing him so he can't use his spells, which the party was all too happy not to catch on the chin. Magic pipe weed, which is highly rare and grown only in the gardens of wizards, may be smoked in this pipe and certain advantages will accrue. These are enumerated below, usable 3 times a day. Hello, RPG Grandma. Pipeweed of Tranquil. Oh boy, this. Let me tell you, nothing grinds my gears like the LOL 420. Bilbo and Frodo and Gandalf are smoking weed, man. God, that's great. Can you ask for? Of course you can, Zeto. Of course you can. I'm not horrible. I mean, I see Succubus walking towards me in the dungeon. I'm just like, I've had a good run, In the game, guys. In the game. Anyway. So Pipeweed of Tranquility calls all hostile creatures to refrain from attacking. Non-player characters of the Smoker's party will have an additional +1 added to their morale. Range 6-foot radius, duration 3 turns plus 1 to 4 turns if used in a Hobbit's pipe. Pipeweed of Stoning. The smoke from this weed will cause any creature within range to be turned to stone. Saving throws allowed. Range 6 inches. Note, however, that on any given turn, there's a 25% chance that wind or something will be blowing the wrong way and the smoker will get stoned. Yep, he's yanking our chain. And then let's see, we have I'm not going to read through all these Pipeweed of Acapulco, Ring of Magic Miss. Okay, all right, we're done with lol weed bro jokes. So Ring of Magic Missiles, Bag of Infinite Wealth. That's a little broken. Turns base metals into gold at the rate of 100 gold pieces per day. Yeah. Helm of Forgetfulness. Appears to be a helm of teleportation, but when it is worn, all things are forgotten. Saving throws are allowed. If saving throws made, then there is only partial memory loss. Intelligence from 13 to 15 have -1 on their saving throw. 16 to 18, -2. I don't think that means minus on your dice. I think that means minus on the target. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Arduin Grimoire got spoofed in the Dungeon Master's Guide as the Vacuous Grimoire. So we all know about that little story. So we'll go over a few more guys, and Ring of Infravision, very handy. Oh, a little, but we're almost at the top of the hour. So it was the 70s. I can't, be too. I can't be too ugly about it. A bag of hyperinflation. Now there's your magic item of the 70s and of the 2020s. Diplomacy World is a quarterly magazine on diplomacy, which is edited by Walter Buchanan. There's his address. The purpose of each 40-page offset issue is to present a broad overview of the postal diplomacy hobby by printing articles on good play, carrying the Hoosier Archives demonstration game with expert analysis, listing rating systems, publishing letters to the editor, listing game openings and zine news, and printing a complete variant game and map with each issue. In short, anything of a general interest to the diplomacy community is fair game for Diplomacy World. Subscriptions are $4 a year, $4.50 outside the U.S. Checks should be in U.S. funds and made payable to Walter Buchanan. Anybody out there ever read Diplomacy World? Let me know. A caused fear that caused bear that's funny. And here we start some fiction by Gardner Fox, and I think that's where we're going to leave off. But we're going to be coming back to this. We have a lot of cool stuff yet to go in this issue. We're not just going to be done. No. Tomorrow night, before we kick off and start playing first edition AD&D on live stream for you folks, we will come back to Dragon Magazine. Summon Lemon. There you go. Pop. So yeah, cast cause beer. No, Gangrel, I think that's a fair question. The 5 to 10 points of damage it does, that is the 1d4 plus 6. Wait, is that 1d6 plus 4? Anyway, the 5 to 10 points of damage that it does represents the bite and the blood drain. The level drain is just cause. One dragon 1 through 600. So they've been going with what is called Dragon Plus, a digital one that they've been publishing weekly since like 2007, I think. So I think that's what it entails. But I think, Gangrel, that yeah, you get the blood drain, but you're also losing life levels. Otherwise, vampires are not that difficult of an opponent. They're just running around, 5 to 10, 5 to 10, 5 to 10. Thank you, RPG Grandma. In my weekly game, which I'm actually going to, well, I'm not going to, I wish I was going. I wish I had all my players here local to me, but in my weekly game, which I'm kicking off at 10 o'clock tonight Eastern, the party encountered a ghost in the cellar, walled off cellar of a building in the city of Greyhawk, and they have all but one character made their saving throw versus spells and did not age. One character went from 26 to 35, I think. Ghouls paralyze, and we know we know, thanks to the monster cards, which we did a review on, we know how long they paralyze. How did Gary pronounce drow? Drow is in cow or drow with throw? I've always said drow as rhymes with cow. Okay, so here's the thing. The times I spoke with Gary and it came up or heard him talk, he said drow. I know other people who said he started saying that because other people would constantly, according to people that were there, mispronounced drow constantly. So he just picked it up and just said, well, it's I'll just say drow. But his original intent was it was pronounced dro. I never, ever, ever, ever heard it called anything but drow. And all the D&D players I have met over the ages call them drow. I have one person on the Knights and Knaves forum. He bops around. He's a most odd fellow. A very strange person. Gets ranty about it and says, "Oh, you knew Jack saying dro, it's saying drow, it's dro. That's how Gary pronounced it. He told me he hated it when people called them drow. They're not cows, it's dro. So I don't say dro. Only newbies call them drow." I have never, again, I never heard it said. And I mean, you're going to find people that, like, you know, if you weren't in the room while Gary was typing OD&D, you know, if you weren't like stuck in the basement playing chainmail back in 1971, you're a newbie, right? So what can I say? I've only ever heard it as drow. I've only heard rumors that Gary said dro from a few other people. Say he eventually just caved and started saying drow, and from a lunatic. So make of that what you will. Snob said dro. How droll. But I hope that answers your question. Only noobs start at level 1, pros start at... Dr. Dro. Yeah, call him on Loveline. Let's take a trip to Airly Sinlu. There have been times when I wanted to dig a hole in the ground. Now, personally, I don't care, and I don't think it matters. It literally does not matter. Of all the arguments you could have about anything ever, whether it's drow or dro, is drum. Get it, drum instead of dumb. Anyway. Engine Joe, it's a bit wordy, but it gets the point across. Oh, John, that's so bad. I'm surprised I didn't say it. Thank you very much. Love me tender, love me sweet. Thank you, Sunny Red. Yeah, Michael, that's you don't want to do that. But part of the etymology, not entomology, they're not bug elves. Part of the etymology of the word drow is trow, Trow, which those are more akin to kobolds. It's my understanding. I could be wrong about that. Somebody else could jump right in and say, no, Bill, you've heard that wrong. Exactly. Excuse me. It was an early morning this morning. Exactly, Grandpa Ty. I feel bad for not having read Nodwick for a long time, because the last of the Howling Hills modules that I published, I self-published back in the early 2000s 6 adventure modules in the AD&D format: DD1, DD2, WGH2, WGH3, WGH4, and WGH5. WGH2, Temple of the Sun, is a standalone, and you can buy a version that has that is written for the rules for Osric and for Castles and Crusades, but it has all Greyhawk stuff is removed from it. You can pick that up at Hellebard Games. You can go check out Hellebard Games and get yourself a copy. But all the cover art for all but 2 of my modules, Temple of the Sun and WGH5, Lords of the Howling Hills, were literally just like bad MS Paint efforts by yours truly. I reached out to Aaron Williams, creator of Nodwick, and I said, hey, so I'm doing this thing. I'm making AD&D modules. You seem to like AD&D. Would you donate some art? Obviously, the art remains yours, but I would just like to do it. And he made 2 gorgeous, gorgeous pieces of art for the front and back of Lords of the Howling Hills. They're just sumptuous art, and he just gave that to me. So cool. So very cool. Here's 300 gold piece up front. Discredit that ignoramus for me. But I feel bad because I haven't looked at Nodwick in a long time. And I really should go back and get caught up with like 10 years of them. Yes, pig face orcs are neat. I like them too. Like I don't like the ones like the trend, the hard trend, the annoying trend towards World of Warcraft orcs now. I loathe that. Or we're still Games Workshop orcs. Yeah, thank you, Luther. Exactly. Luther cuts straight to the point. And Games Workshop orcs are fun in the context of Games Workshop games. Because your classic 40k orcs are soccer hooligans. Kobolds yip and make happy noises right until the scimitars come out and daggers and nets and all that stuff. But anyway, so tomorrow night we're going to continue reading Dragon Magazine issue 2 at 8 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to jump in and we're going to play some first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I hope you guys will stop by for that. We've got a good little group of adventurers. We've got Doomsword Deathmaster. We've got Ricky Maru. We have MJS. And of course, we have Baron Von Headbanger. They will all be here tomorrow running their characters. Unless real life intervenes, and we'll carry on. The original World of Warcraft orc voices are hilarious, particularly when you click, just find a random orc, spawn an orc, or even the one you start with, and just click on them over and over again to get all their dialogue. Stop touching me. Don't poke me. It's very funny. Cute bolds. So that's the thing that's happening tomorrow. Wednesday night, Kyle takes the helm. We play some Classic Traveler. We'll wrap up the Classic Traveler campaign, for better or worse. I'm nervous. I hope the other players are too. Thursday night, Stephen will be here to talk about the Glimmering, and that'll be fun. And then Friday night, of course, if we're not finished up, we'll get back into issue 2 of Dragon Magazine. Otherwise, hey, maybe we'll look at issue 3. Maybe we'll find something else to do. But then at 9 o'clock, then we're going to play, of course, Gamma World. And I hope you guys are looking forward to all of that. So that's where I'm going to leave it for tonight, guys. Thank you all for coming and hanging out this evening. It makes me feel good to see this many people just hanging out in the chat. It does my heart good. Lets me know I'm doing something right. So that is where we'll leave it. And let me tell you something. I love you guys, all of you guys. And it's always awesome to see you sitting out there in the chat. Whether you watch this later, whether you're watching it live now, I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button and the bell icon. Remember, we're driving towards 5,000 by June. So I can do a little giveaway for you guys, some AD&D books and hopefully some OD&D. So y'all have a wonderful evening. Yeah, Jack, we're wrapping up. And I'll talk to y'all in a little while, okay? I'll see you tomorrow evening. Probably have a video coming during the day tomorrow too. So be well.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.